Hi, and welcome back to the Plant-Based Quick Cooking Show. I'm Karen, and I come to you every week from the Center for Plant-Based Living right here in St. Louis, Missouri. Let's get started. Okay, this week is my take on an Italian white bean cabbage soup. Okay, this is so great, really low in calories if that's what you're looking for, and super high in nutrients. So banging on the nutrient density. Okay, what I'm going to do first is, the ingredients that we're using. I'm using 2 small heads of cabbage. You can use 1 large head, doesn't matter, but I wanted to do both purple and green cabbage. We're going to first grill up or saute up, a dry saute, a white onion. I have a little bit of garlic over here, fresh garlic, and this is our white beans. I'm using white cannellini beans. Drain them, rinse them off, pardon me, put them in a mesh strainer, then take canned diced tomatoes and drain those as well. So these guys are just going to sit out here for a minute. And I am going to cut our onion. And I'm just going to chop this up in somewhat of a rough chop, a larger cut, if you will. I don't really want a dice on this. Just something that I can see in the soup, just to give it a little bit more texture as well. Though I suppose we'll probably get a lot of texture with all that cabbage. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut our onion, and then I'm just going to let it sit for about 3, 4, 5 minutes and let the cancer fighting properties, kind of take hold and develop. And then when I come back, I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I'll explain to you what I'm talking about, and we'll get started on the rest of the soup. So now we have this big, nice rough chop. Our garlic is already chopped. And then we'll get things rocking and rolling in just a few minutes. All right, it's been about 10 minutes that I've let both the garlic and the onion set. And I'm going to just pull up my pan to a high heat. Let that get nice and hot. Now, chopping or crushing stimulates the enzymatic process that converts the phytonutrient allicin into allicin, and that's A-L-L-I-C-I-N. It's a compound to which many of both garlic and onions health benefits are attributed. In order to receive maximal allicin production, so maximum healing or prevention, right? You want to make sure that you cut or chop or mince your garlic or your onions and then let them just hang out for about 10 minutes. So whenever you see a recipe that has garlic or onions or shallots or anything like that, you want to make sure that you just cut those and let them sit. We like to call that the hack and hold method. Got that from Dr. Greger. All right, so we're nice and hot. Love these induction ovens, or induction stovetops. Sizzle, sizzle. Put in your onion. Now when you're doing a dry saute, you want to make sure that you have a little bit of water, because you may start to brown a little bit. Remember, plants have so much water in them, so they will start to release water right away, which will help with the dry saute, but then it's just going to evaporate. So really make sure that you're always stirring your vegetables, you're really staying on top of it. And if it starts to brown just a little bit, that's okay, because then, and pull your heat down a little bit, add just a teaspoon of water at a time to deglaze. Now that deglazing is just going to fold in more flavors to your soup or to any recipe that you're making, and it's just going to give you another layer of flavor that's going to be so good. Now another little thing I like to teach people is how to do a really, really quick, or like cheater's way of doing or making some caramelized onions. So get out a little bit of salt, a little bit. I will use salt during the cooking process, but not at the end. salt really helps those flavors bloom. And stir around your garlic in that salt. Now what salt is going to do, it's going to further concentrate all of that, all of the sugars by really getting all the rest of that water out of there. So it's pulling out the water and it's concentrating those sugars, giving you that nice, yummy caramelization that we all love. A true caramelization is going to be low and slow, but this is going to be a nice quick one if that's what you want as part of your recipe. Okay, I'm getting a little bit more browning because I still have a hot pan. No big deal. That is more deglazing into our soup. It's going to be so good. Okay, I'm going to let this cook for another few minutes, and then we'll finish this sucker off. This is what our onions look like. They're getting nice and brown. They're in a pretty hot pan. I have just put in that salt and we're caramelizing just a little bit. Looks really great. Just give it another couple minutes. Okay, well, our onions are pretty well cooked down. They are nice and brown and delicious. Next, in goes the garlic. And once that becomes fragrant, probably, I don't know, anywhere between 45 and 60 seconds is when you want to add your next ingredients. The last thing you want is burnt garlic. Boo. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're there. Okay. All right, guys, I don't want to burn you. Now, I've already chopped both of the heads of the cabbage. And it's just, again, this is just like a rough chop as well. You just want to make sure, now even though it will wilt, you want to make sure that you can get it on a spoon. So you don't want these large or these long shreds, right? So you want a good chop. Put that into your big bowl. Give it a good toss. Get all the flavors together. Okay. Now what I have over here on this other stove top is some of my vegetable broth that was in the freezer, so that has been defrosting very slowly. And now I'm going to, I mean, look how beautiful this is. It's beautiful. Okay, so next I'm just going to take, I have 10 cups here of my vegetable broth. And I'm going to pour it in. So again, I'm using 10 cups to one very large head of cabbage or 2 small ones. I'm going to cover this. Actually, you know what? I'll give it a couple turns of pepper. I'm going to cover this, keep it on a medium, and let it cook for about 20 minutes. And then I'll add everything else in and serve it up. All right, I have brought our cabbage soup up to a boil and down to a simmer, and it's been cooking for a while and it looks so good. Now what I think I'm going to do is just put in all of our cannellini beans and our tomatoes and let those get nice and warm. Yeah, oh, it's so pretty. Okay, stir everything up. Let the beans and the tomatoes get nice and warm. And in the meantime, oh, and while this was cooking earlier, I took a few sprigs of our oregano and just tore off the leaves and chopped them up really fine and then threw them in the pot as well to cook. I did that probably about 3 minutes ago, so they haven't been in there really that long. And this is just going to be garnish. So chop those up. Okay. All right, soup's on. This is our Italian white bean and cabbage soup. Oh my gosh, looks so good. So colorful. Now, I will tell you that the broth is purple, which is exactly what I wanted, but if that doesn't really jive with you, then just stick with the green cabbage. Now, another reason I chose the purple cabbage is because really the rule of thumb is the darker, the better. And what I mean by that is there's going to be more antioxidants packed into that fruit or vegetable. So you always hear people talk about, oh, eat your dark leafy greens, eat your dark berries. So if you're choosing a potato, try to get the purple potato. If you're choosing an onion, try to use a red onion if it applies to the recipe. Dark beans, so the darker the better, maybe not so much better, but there's going to be a higher concentration of phytonutrients in there. So just a little FYI, but always eat the rainbow. All right, I'm gonna dig in. Bon appetit. Thanks again for hanging out with me today. I hope you try this soup. If you do, tag me on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I'd love to see what you're cooking up. And until then, take good care. I'll see you next week.